Hey there, Ashton here from Muse Themes, and today we're working with our new Confetti widget from Muse. This is a widget that creates a momentary full-screen confetti effect overlay for your Muse page. I'm going to give a click here to trigger the widget, and this can be configured to work by a button click or even just a page load. Here we go. And we have this really neat celebratory effect going on around our content on our page, customizable with your personal logo scattered throughout, as you can see here with our orange Muse Themes logo. Now you may be asking yourself, why would I ever need this? Well, this is a great effect to use for anything celebratory for your website. So for example, we use a major support platform to handle our support emails for Muse Themes and Without Code, and we noticed this really cool confetti effect that they implemented that would show up full screen like this when you close out the last support case that's sitting in your support case queue or your inbox. And from there we started seeing it a bunch of times in other places too in similar circumstances. So feel free to get creative with this one. You can use this for form submissions, newsletter signups, reaching a goal of some kind like crowdfunding or charity, loading an article or special page of your site. The applications are limitless. And as I mentioned, this can be configured to be triggered by a physical button click or automatically when a page loads. So let's switch over to Muse and take a look at how we can incorporate this into a pre-existing site. I've got our Neptuno theme here. It's our latest theme release currently in the Muse Themes library. Here on the home page, with a small tweak, we've created a perfect little spot to utilize this widget. So scrolling down to the bottom left of the page, we've turned this little box into a call to action for the viewer to sign up for the newsletter and input their birthday for a free gift. Now this is just a hyperlink taking us to a different page where we can incorporate our celebratory confetti effect. So let me click over to that page, our confetti page. And here we've got a nice, simple call to action page prompting a form sign up, utilizing a regular, styled up Muse contact form. And what we want to do is attach our widget to the sign up form so our confetti effect occurs when the user completes the form and clicks submit. So let's jump into our library, grab our confetti widget out, and we'll drag it onto our page. And we'll leave it off canvas and out of the way. The placement of this widget doesn't even really matter since the effect is happening behind the scenes. Now let's dive into the settings panel. First few options allow you to configure the appearance of the confetti. So maximum confetti count does just that, simply increase this number for a more dense appearance of confetti. Let me bump this up to something like 110. Confetti size, pretty self-explanatory. Probably best to play around with this and use trial and error until you land it right where you want it. And duration, of course, lets you determine how long the effect will be visible on the page in seconds. And the next option is the trigger type. Now this is where you decide if you want this effect visible automatically upon page load or wait until something is clicked. If you're using a page load, then the effect occurs on its own, but if we switch this to on trigger click, then we have a new field available to us here to input a graphic style. Now a graphic style is how we're going to link this effect to the button or element of our choosing. So back to our page here, we're going to use this submit button. So we simply need to create a new graphic style that's unique to only this button and then enter that into the widget. So let me select the form, and I'll need to click a couple times here until I have just the submit button selected. There we go. Now let's click into our graphic styles panel. We'll click down here to create a new style, and then double click on it to rename it. We'll give this one a name of Submit, nice and simple, and we'll click OK. Perfect. Now back to our panel, we're just going to enter Submit into our trigger graphic style, and we're set to go. Let's drop down into the confetti type section. Here's a cool little section where you can customize specifically what makes up the confetti. Now we've got a variety of toggle options here for things like squares, lines, triangles, circles, and an additional option here for an SVG file. And this is how you're going to incorporate your own custom confetti shape if you choose to. Now this could be your logo or really any SVG file that you want included in the pool of shapes that blast around the screen. So to do this, simply toggle the SVG option on, and then you'll be given the ability here to upload your own SVG file. So let's click to Add File. And I've already got a little purple planet icon prepared, kind of in theme with the Neptuno theme here. So let's add that in. Perfect. And then we've got two customization options here. SVG size, of course, lets you determine just that. And SVG rarity lets you control how prominent your SVG is in the mix of confetti on the page. The scale is between 0 and 1, and larger numbers, of course, mean it will appear more often, so just keep that in mind. Also, side note I want to make here, make sure you watch to the end of this video because we found that in testing of this widget that SVGs didn't show up in all browsers consistently, and we do have a fix for that, and I'm going to cover that very shortly. But let's finish out here. Let's drop down to Confetti Colors. Pretty self-explanatory here. You're able to select up to 4 different colors to vary in the mix. I've already got 4 listed in my palette here that kind of go with the theme, so let me just finish adding these into the list of 4. There we go. And finally, let's dig into Confetti Animation. Pretty simplistic as well. You've got 2 options here allowing the confetti to be animated, to which you can pick the speed, and finally the ability to rotate the confetti as well as it falls on the page. Now, before I get into the SVGs again, I do want to view all of this in our browser. Now, typically I just do a browser preview, but we're using a contact form as the trigger, and since contact forms don't function in Muse previews, I'm going to switch over to a link that I've already published this effect with the exact parameters as we've just set it up with. So let me switch over there. As we already saw, it's our Neptuno theme, and on the bottom left of the page, we have the birthday call to action, so let's click into that, taking us to our confetti page. And of course, the viewer will be able to enter their information into the form, but for the sake of demo, we don't need to do that right now. Let's just click Submit. And there we go. We've got our confetti functioning with the colors as I've set them. We can also see a little planet icon in the mix here. That's my SVG that I uploaded into the panel. Everything's looking great. Now let's jump back to Muse. As I mentioned, we found in our widget testing that certain browsers didn't include the SVG files consistently. So here's the deal with that. SVGs are different from normal images because they're code-based vector files. Some browsers may not display SVGs properly without certain aspects being present in the SVG file code. We found that it's best for the SVG to contain width and height settings in the code to function properly on all browsers. And depending on where your SVG file was sourced or created, it may not have that width and height defined in the code already. In our testing, Google Chrome displayed all SVGs, but other browsers like Firefox and Safari didn't display SVGs without the width and height values added into that code. Now don't get overwhelmed, this is a very simple thing to fix. All you need to do is open the code of the SVG in some kind of text editor and make this small change. I'm going to go back to my Finder window. And I have 2 versions of our Neptuno Planet SVG file included here so I can show you the difference and precisely what you need to add into the code if it's not present already. I'm going to go into this one labeled After, as this is the one we used in the demo and has been adjusted accordingly. And to do this, we can right-click on the file, and we're going to go to Open With. And probably the simplest app for Mac users like me is the Text Edit app, but any code or text editor app will suffice for this. And if it's not listed in this initial list here, we can go to Other, and we'll scroll down to our Text Edit app here, and Open. Perfect. Now let me stretch this out a bit wider so we can see it a bit better. And where we want to look is the line that begins with SVG version right here. All we need to do is add a width and height parameter, which we can see here after the ID has already been done for this version. We've got width equals and then quotes around a value of 25, and the same with height. Now back to my Finder window, let me open up the before version of the graphic. Get it into Text Edit. There we go. And if we compare the two, we can see on the SVG version line there is no width or height declaration. So to fix this, we just need to add some text. So here after the ID, we'll put a space, and we'll type width equals quotes 25 end quotes. And then height equals 25 end quotes as well. And it doesn't have to be 25 specifically, but it just needs to be a value of some kind. And then we just need to save, which we can do by hitting Command S. And you should also consider saving it under a new name, just in case you need to start it over for some reason. One more thing I will mention is that regardless of what text editor you're using, you'll want to make sure that a feature called Smart Quotes is turned off. Depending on the default settings of your computer, your usage of quotes may automatically be set as something called smart quotes, which appear a little differently than the normal quotes, as you can see by the ones that I just typed. You can find this in the preference settings of most text editor programs, and you'll want to make sure this feature is turned off, as it can alter the HTML code in a way that Muse might not understand. And that's it. Once you've made this change, your SVGs will now show up in all browsers properly. So thanks for hanging in there on this tutorial. I hope you enjoy our Confetti widget. Definitely have fun with this widget, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need any assistance whatsoever. Thanks again, and take care.